Singer-songwriter FKA Twigs is speaking out to us in her first TV interview since filing a lawsuit against her former boyfriend, that's actor Shia LaBeouf. She says that their relationship was filled with verbal, emotional, and physical abuse. In December, she filed a civil suit against him, accusing him of sexual battery, assault, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Shia LaBeouf's lawyer says he denies every allegation in this lawsuit. Twigs told us she wanted to share her story to help others spot early signs of abuse, and most important, to let survivors know they are not alone.
I was always told that, you know, I was special and to look after my heart and to look after the light inside my chest. And when I was with Shia, that light got blown out, and I just didn't think that that could happen.
Critically acclaimed singer-songwriter FKA Twigs
Don't judge me, take care of me.
met Shia LaBeouf in 2018 when she made her acting debut in Honey Boy. It's a film LaBeouf wrote about his own childhood. The two began a troubled romance that lasted just under a year, a relationship that she says had red flags from the very start.
In the beginning, he would come, he would almost he actually would jump over the fence where I was staying and leave flowers outside my door and poems and books. And I thought it was very romantic, but that quickly changed. You know, I understand now that that's testing your boundaries. Instead of me thinking, oh, you know, that's nice to have flowers outside my door, now I think that's inappropriate to jump over the fence of where I'm living. That's breaking a boundary, but it didn't stop there. You know, his behavior became gradually more and more abusive.
I've heard you use the term love bombing. What do you mean by that?
Putting me on a pedestal, telling me that I was amazing, over-the-top displays of affection, just to knock me off the pedestal, to tell me that I was worthless, to criticize me, to berate me, to, you know, pick me apart. Some of the worst times that I experienced in that relationship were when I think he felt like he was losing control of me, and I was trying to get out.
And didn't he have a request of you? You had to kiss him a certain amount of times?
Yeah, I had to give him a certain amount of sort of physical affection a day. So at first it was touches. So I'd have to like touch him and be like, are you okay? Like, I love you.
Show concern.
Yeah, are you
express
okay?
love.
You know, little things like that. And then I began to get really on top of that, and then he would say that I didn't kiss him enough.
And you never knew what that bar was?
No, I think it was around 20 touches and kisses a day. And so I'd start to panic, and you know, you lose count and the days blur into each other, and I'm thinking, it's 8 o'clock and I've got like 3 hours to do this. Abusers use gaslighting, which is where like somebody minimizes your experience. You know, it's like altering your narrative and not listening to you and denying your experience. And eventually it did become physical. There were certain instances where he would push me and then he would say, you fell. And I would get really confused, and I would think maybe I did.
When did you know this is really serious and maybe I need to rethink this relationship?
Yes, well, we had, around Valentine's Day, we had a really disturbing trip to a spa in the desert, but it just descended into one of the worst, you know, like long weekends that I'd had in the whole of my life. It resulted in him speeding down the motorway and saying that if I left him, or if I said that I didn't love him and if I was going to leave him, that he would smash the car into the side of a wall. And I thought, wow, like, he needs so much control over me that he would rather kill us both. And eventually he pulled over into a gas station, and I tried to unload my bags from the car. There were 3 men opposite the car, and I remember thinking, this is it. I was like, this is it, I'm done, like, I can't do this anymore. And he picked me up and he threw me against the car and started strangling me. And that's when I realized I need to get help to get out of this relationship.
What did the men at the gas station do?
They did nothing. They just watched us. And I felt so alone, you know, and that's why I wanted to come forward, because victims and survivors, like, shouldn't have to feel alone.
And it got so bad that you called it helpline, right?
Yes. And I remember after that weekend, going back to where I was staying and looking at myself in the mirror, one side of me was like completely black. And I was so shocked, you know, like I was...
It's okay. It's all right, Twigs.
Sorry.
No, no, no.
I really
You
don't
do
wanna...
not need to apologize.
No, I
no,
didn't
no.
want to cry. I don't want
Twigs,
to...
look at you for just a second. You're talking about something that's very traumatic to you, and yet you feel that you're the one that has to apologize. That's
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
about why we need to be talking about this, don't you think?
So I'd gone back to where I was staying, and the whole one side of my body was black and blue. And I remember thinking, you know, I'm a dancer, and I really love my body, and I take such good care of it. And I was looking at my body, and I just thought, where did it all go wrong?
Why did you decide, Twigs, to file a lawsuit against Shia LaBeouf?
I didn't want to. Originally, I wanted to ensure that he got help privately so that he couldn't hurt anyone else the way he hurt me. I wanted him to donate money to charity, to an organisation, because when I called the helpline, it was a real moment of everything changing for me. And they didn't know that I was like FKA Twigs. They didn't know who I was. I was just a girl on the end of the phone and...
Who needed help.
Who needed help.
If he had done the things that you had asked,
Yeah.
you would not have filed the lawsuit.
No.
And nobody who's been in this position likes this question. And I often wonder, is it even an appropriate question to ask? And you know the question is, why didn't you leave?
Yeah. And I think we just have to stop asking that question. I know that you're asking it, like, out of love, but, like, I'm just going to make a stance and say that I'm not going to answer that question anymore, because the question should really be to the abuser, why are you holding someone hostage with abuse? You know, and people say, oh, it can't have been that bad because else you would have left. And it's like, no, it's because it was that bad, I couldn't leave.
Shia LaBeouf did release a statement. Many of these allegations are not true, but he also said this: I have no excuses for my alcoholism or aggression, only rationalizations. I've been abusive to myself and everyone around me for years, he says. I'm ashamed of that history, and I'm sorry to those I hurt. When you heard that, what did you think?
I think it just reminds me of some of the gaslighting that I experienced when I was with him, the sort of taking some of the blame, but not all of it, and then denying it.
What do you hope will come out of this?
I think that the result for me is already happening, and I think I needed to... I just couldn't carry it anymore, you know? I felt like I was cracking, whereas now I feel like I've handed his dysfunction back to him, and it's his.
So if we sit here today, FK Twigs is feeling what?
That's a big question. I'm feeling brave. Yeah.
Brave, yeah. Shia LaBeouf's lawyer said the actor denies generally and specifically each and every allegation in this lawsuit. She says she feels brave. I think we should add impressive, too. You know, this was not an angry, bitter young woman. She's a little bitty thing. I've never met her before. But she didn't come with anger and bitterness. And she was very emphatic that if he had just gotten help, and she reached out to him several times, if you'll just get help, if you'll just donate money to these charities. She said the hotline was a big resource and help to her, that she didn't want to do an interview. She didn't want to file a lawsuit. And she wanted more than anything for women to know, to recognize some of the signs. What she went through was horrible. It's stomach-churning, some of the things she said, and we couldn't put everything in. But she says she wants women to recognize themselves in her story and maybe that they would get help. And I love how she sort of corrected me. I actually appreciated that. I appreciated that, Anthony and Tony, when she says, no, you shouldn't even ask that question. So what is the question to ask when you're concerned?
No, I thought that was very powerful, the question you should ask.
What
Why
is the
did you do
question
this?
you
And
should ask?
I mean, and the way she said, I'm essentially giving his dysfunction back to him was really interesting.
Incredible interview, Gayle.
Thank you. She will help a lot of people today. We thank you, FKA Twigs. We thank you for being brave.